Hello, and thank you for joining us. We'll begin the presentation in about 1 minute. We're just going to give everyone a chance to log in. Thanks. Hello again. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to begin the presentation in about 1 minute. We're just going to give everyone a chance to log in. Thanks. All right. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Miro Consulting webinar on Microsoft TrueDowns. My name is Sean Donahue, and I'm the VP of Marketing and Lead Salesforce Analyst at Miro Consulting. And joining me today is Miro's Director of Technical Services and Microsoft Practice Manager, Tim Hegedus. If you have any questions during the broadcast, please use the question box in your webinar control panel, and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Please note, if you would like to ask a question, we won't say who's asking, but we will read the question out loud for the benefit of the audience, and we'll try to answer it the best we can in the time we have. If we don't have time, or if we need some extra details from you, we'll contact you after the webinar and answer your questions then. Before we begin, just a quick explanation of who Miro is. Miro Consulting is a leading global provider of software asset management and subscription management services for Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, and Salesforce. We specialize in license management, audit advisory, negotiation tactics, support management, and cloud services. Our mission is to help our clients maximize ROI on their software license and subscription investments, stay in compliance, and negotiate successful contracts and audit settlements. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tim. And Tim, tell us how we can do a true down with Microsoft.
Well, thank you very much, Sean, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Many of you know of Microsoft's True Up policy, and what that is each year, some 30 to 60 days before the anniversary date of your enterprise agreement, your Microsoft licenses are trued to your environment. But this webinar is about true downs. Right? So we will discuss the mechanics of determining eligibility for reduction, the differences between the enterprise agreement and the server and cloud enrollment, a run-through for identifying whether there are unused licenses, and then we will take our leave or finish with some takeaways relative to the webinar. Now, the COVID pandemic has turned out to be a boon for some organizations. For others, well, not so much. And so these organizations are seeking a way to reduce costs. But you have inked an enterprise agreement, or an EA, as it may be called, a 3-year commitment to Microsoft to reach a certain level of spend. And your growth trajectory took a hit, or perhaps it has even reversed. And so you're thinking that short of going out of business, there's nothing you can do. Well, if you have a current EA, there was a change made about a year ago, a little bit less. Actually, there were several. The first, and Miro has blogged about this on miroconsulting.com, is quite prevalent in the current climate, and that is business downturns. As part of its revisions to EA, Microsoft applies the 10% rule. The 10% downturn rule, it only applies to M&A activity. But there is perhaps something you can do if you have Azure cloud deployments. And this is the second change that we will talk about in this webinar. It is referred to as reduction eligibility, and Microsoft defines it as an online service for a customer that has an enterprise enrollment, an enterprise subscription enrollment, a Microsoft Azure enrollment, or an enrollment for education solutions. And they can report a reduction in licenses or annual prepayment. Now, that is the definition from Microsoft. Now, but what we're saying is that this allowance also involves the server and cloud enrollment, or SCE, but in different ways. And we'll get into that detail as we speak. Now, this is the actual screen that is displayed when you click on the Microsoft 365 option under the product terms. That website is, as you see it there, Microsoft.com.licensing or /licensing/term/product offering. Right? Notice near the center of the page where it reads reduction eligible. Now, if you were to scroll over these words, you would be able to read the definition associated with this term, and that is the definition that I had just iterated for you. Now, this slide is about the enterprise agreement, right? The EA works in such a way as to allow for certain types of true downs so long as the amount does not reach below the threshold to which you have committed. I'll repeat that. The EA works in such a way as to allow for certain true downs so long as the amount does not reach below the threshold to which you have committed. This is only for enterprise products, which include online subscriptions to Microsoft 365, both plans E3 and E5, right? Enterprise Mobility and Security, or EMS, both plans E3 and E5. Office 365 Enterprise, plans E1, E3, and E5, and Intune. So another way of saying this is that if your EA has 1,000 licenses of Microsoft 365 E3, for example, listed as the initial quantity, those 1,000 licenses are as low as you can go. This takes place during the true up period or true down period. That is just before your anniversary date, in the period of 30 days through 60 days before your anniversary or before your renewal date. Microsoft also refers to these as -60 or -30. So if you hear that vernacular, that's where it's coming from. And all this occurs at that time. Now, for additional products, right, in the subscription genre, that reduction can usually be reduced to 0. These products include, for example, all types of Azure utility-based computing services, which are generally licensed based on capacity or consumption. Standalone user subscription licenses for Office 365, and such as for products such as Exchange Online or SharePoint Online, and others which we won't list, but for which Miro can offer a lot of great information. Now, the server and cloud enrollment, or SCE, right, focuses on growth and standardization, right? And it works a little differently, right? Recall that because it focuses on growth and standardization, there's some additional discounting involved. It also involves that level of standardization as a commitment is made to cover all of your inventory with software assurance or not use those licenses, which is a negotiation topic. The products in this program must still be subscriptions, right? And any true down would still be done during the anniversary period. The anniversary date is likely to be the same as the enterprise agreement, but Miro has had some clients where the two have differed, right? Now, the change for server and cloud enrollment is italicized in the slide that you see. Both subscriptions and allocated prepayments can be reduced, right, after 12 months of continuous use. So that means that if your enterprise agreement differs substantially or even a little bit from the dates around your server and cloud enrollment, that true down period for your enterprise agreement cannot be used generally for reducing anything in the server and cloud enrollment. You have to use the server and cloud enrollment dates, and the true down would then be eligible for your use. So what are some examples? Well, this may not be great news for organizations that have a lot of seasonal employees, but it might be good for some organizations that have grown and then contracted somewhat. Organizations that have hired many contractors and who have released those contractors because their projects have been reprioritized during the pandemic, right? Or those with a surplus of cloud licenses. And while there may be a good number of seasonal employees, the enterprise agreement ought to be aligned with those seasons, right? For example, in the retail vertical, November through January are typically months where the employee count surges. If these new users are outfitted with Microsoft 365, for example, then February would become that month with the biggest bang financially. So perhaps you will want to target your renewal date on the end of towards the end of that month. Now, that is again something that Miro can help you with, and it is again once again a negotiation topic. Now, let's stay with Microsoft 365 as something of the prevailing example. Some of you may be wondering how this information is obtained. One way is via the administrative reports for Microsoft 365. So this slide depicts an example of the Exchange Online usage, right? Which is, of course, email, right? In this column, last activity date, right? You can determine whether this particular user has recently used his or her account. Okay. The second circle shows the date and time that this report was run. So the comparison would be made on that information, right? Now, I know I've gone through this rather quickly. It's intended to encourage you to investigate further, but we're going to linger a little bit on some of these conclusions and takeaways. The first one is the knowledge that you can true down to your subscription under an enterprise agreement for prescription licenses with the proviso that the enterprise products such as Microsoft 365, can only be reduced to the commitment level. And all of the subscriptions for the additional products, such as Azure, can be reduced to zero during a true down. Now, having said that, I will also tell you that this is something of a challenge, if you will, for many of you who are charged with this responsibility, right? First and foremost, there may be some lack of communication as to what exactly is required and how that affects licensing. There may be some technicians who are in the process of planning some upgrades and requires some licensing, even temporarily. So this information is not or could not be readily available to you. So it's important, while we don't focus on it, it's important to make sure that information is exchanged with the powers to be. And that is that the technical staff, the procurement staff, perhaps even the financial and legal staffs as well. It's also important to understand when the true down would occur. Okay, as we have been saying, it's done at the same time as your true up. However, to help avoid having that true down become somewhat meaningless, you will want to align your enterprise agreement renewal very carefully. Okay, I said before how using the retail vertical as an example, that the January or the November through January period is usually when the employment surges, and therefore you would want to align your enterprise agreement with that particular calendar date. However, if that's not possible, you might consider monthly subscriptions that are part of the Microsoft Product and Services Agreement, or MPSA, assuming you have one. And this is so very, very, very important. Create a sound software asset management program, or a SAM program, and use this program to conduct a self-check on a regular basis. Now, regular, I'm doing air quotes here, regular is a function of how often your environment changes, right? So if you change, if you want to conduct one right before the change, run right after the change, that would be a prudent idea. It informs the licensing being so costly, can inform some of the changes that would be made if you were to go ahead with Plan A. So perhaps Plan B is a better choice if it is more economical and just as performance lead. To do this, especially the true down, you can use the Microsoft 365 administration portal as a tool, right? That's what we just went through. Or perhaps the MAP toolkit, what's referred to as the Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, which, by the way, is not intended for audits, though it has evolved to be an audit tool. And then finally, this is a business decision that affects real cash and real potential exposures. So you will want to gain the attention it deserves by making it visible to the decision makers, and that is in finance, as well as the IT management, as well as procurement. And all along that way have the basis, the foundation of the software asset management program, as well as the plans for that are being made for changes in the upcoming year. So that was very, very quick. I have allowed ample time for some questions. Please feel free to enter them into the question box, and at this point, I'll turn it back over to Sean.
Thank you, Tim. We have a couple questions, and I can tell you right now the answer to all of them is a few of them is it depends, and we will contact you right after the webinar and find out what we need to find out for those. We do have an additional question I think we can answer now. Where can we find the commitment level? Tim?
The commitment level for enterprise agreement is either 500 seats on premise, right, or 250 licenses in the cloud. That is the
Excellent.
minimum levels at which the enterprise agreement can be brought into play.
Perfect. And while I'll give everyone a chance to ask any more questions before they come in, I just want to remind everyone, if you have a Microsoft renewal coming up, or you're looking for ways to save money on your Microsoft license, we can help you with things beyond just what we covered in this presentation. We're not a Microsoft partner, so therefore we are completely confidential, and you can ask us questions and not worry about it getting back to your Microsoft rep. All right, we have another question that came in. Microsoft is telling us that for the new EA, the minimum commit is you cannot go below this minimum. Is that correct? The minimum commit is set. You cannot go below the minimum. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes, that is correct. From the standpoint of whether it is either an enterprise product or an additional product, as we said, the minimum commitment remains the minimum. Many of our clients have far greater than the minimum commitment, but that then represents their minimum. So any true down cannot be made lower than that committed level for enterprise products, or generally to zero for additional products. Sean, back to you.
Sorry about that. I was talking on mute. But yes, if you'd like to have your contracts, get someone to take a second look at your contracts. It's a service we offer at no charge, and we can tell you right away if you are getting appropriate pricing, if you have the right types of products, the right amounts, if you have opportunities to change things around and save some money. So please contact us. Let us know if you would like us to do that. Like I said, there's no charge for that service. So all the other questions, like I said, we have left here, the real answer is it depends, and we got to go into some detail. We don't want anything to come up. Oh, we have one more follow-up question. In fact, we have two more follow-up questions. So when you sign up for the new EA, wouldn't that mean you want to have it lower, or do you have to have the minimum for what you have installed?
The EA is a commitment-based agreement, meaning that every user or every seat, as they refer to it, has to be covered. So you could not, for example, choose 500 when you have 1,000 employees and then decrease that count or increase that count accordingly. So the minimum that you would have to start with is the same as the company employment.
Excellent. And we have one more I think we can get to here. Do we have a minimum for on-premise server licenses under EA?
None whatsoever. All the server licenses are considered additional products, so there is no minimum. There's not even a need to have those particular products within the EA because the EA has an inherency to it that is software assurance. That means that they are covered by software assurance. It would take an analysis to determine whether or not that made good sense for you. And it would involve your upgrade schedule as well as whether or not this is a legacy application or whether there's an SCE involved, et cetera, and so on.
Excellent. All right, that is all the questions we have right now that I think we can answer in this form. If you'd like further information on how to reduce your licensing costs with Microsoft or make sure you're in compliant and don't get audited in case you get audited, please contact us at sales@miroconsulting.com. Call us at 732-738-8511, extension 1208, or visit us on the web at miroconsulting.com. This concludes the webinar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tim, for the great presentation. Have a great day.